The room hums with a low, electric pulse. 3 screens dominate the wall, casting a sharp green glow across the floor. They pulse with data, labeled stocks, crypto, and forex. Anton stands in the center of this light, his hand steady as he points toward each display in sequence. He knows what is happening on the other side of the screen. Thousands of voices are shouting conflicting advice, filling the internet with noise. He watches the flickering graphs for a moment, then turns his gaze toward the shadows beyond the light. Everywhere a beginner looks, someone is screaming a different path to wealth. One side claims the future is digital, the other insists on the safety of established companies. It is a storm of information designed to paralyze anyone starting from zero. Anton keeps his posture rigid, his eyes locked on the space where the viewer exists. He taps the glass of the center screen, the light reflecting against his palm. The confusion is not an accident. It is a filter. He waits for the silence to settle before he takes a single step forward, ready to dismantle the trap that catches every newcomer. Anton steps out of the green light. He walks forward until he is inches from the lens, his presence filling the frame. He does not look at the glowing boards anymore.
He focuses entirely on the person watching. If you are new to money, you ask the same question. "Buy," he says, his voice dropping to a low, measured tone. "What should I learn first?"
Everyone online yells a different answer at you. They promise shortcuts. They sell you the next big trend. He stops, letting the claim hang in the air. He tilts his head slightly,
watching for a reaction. The truth is simple, and it is the one thing they never tell you. You do not pick the market first. You pick your mindset. He holds the gaze, waiting for the weight of the statement to sink in. He is not offering a tip or a secret formula. He is challenging the entire foundation of the viewer's approach.
The market is just a mirror. It reflects exactly who you are, what you fear, and what you crave. If you walk into that room without knowing your own mind, you are already lost.
Anton turns back to the glowing wall. He walks to the far left screen labeled stocks.
The green light here is different, softer, pulsing at a slower, more rhythmic rate. He rests his palm against the glass,
tracing the steady upward slope of a blue line on the display. "This is where you begin to understand the real work," he says, his voice losing its sharp edge. "Stocks teach you how companies breathe. They show you how value is built, not by luck, but by time and fundamental growth." He taps the screen, and the graph expands, showing decades of progress. It is steady. It is built on real-world foundations. When you learn this, you are not chasing shadows or gambling on hype. He steps back, watching the calm, incremental climb of the data. It requires patience, a quiet, iron-willed patience that ignores the noise outside. You learn to read the health of a business. You learn to wait for the result of a solid plan. The screen hums with reliability. He looks back at the viewer, his expression neutral. If you want to build something that lasts, you start here. You learn the rhythm of the market. You learn the value of the long game. Anton steps away from the slow rhythm of the stocks and moves toward the center screen. The light here is different. It is a flickering, frantic neon that pulses with irregular speed. He places his hand on the glass, and the display reacts instantly, lines jumping and fracturing as if trying to break out of the frame.
"Crypto," he says, and his voice carries a new, sharper energy. "This is not about companies or decades of growth.
This is about technology and the raw power of digital scarcity." He taps the screen, and a cascade of numbers begins to scroll so fast they blur into a single stream of light. It is fast.
It is purely emotional. It is volatile. He watches the screen as the graph spikes violently, then crashes.
Then spikes again. He does not try to follow the path with his eyes. He just watches the chaos. When you enter this space, you are not trading value. You are trading human reaction. Every spike is a fear. Every crash is agreed. He turns to the camera, his movements quicker, more reactive.
This market does not reward the patient. It rewards the ones who can keep their head when the floor disappears beneath them.
It is a digital storm. If you cannot control your own pulse, this market will strip you bare. Anton slides across the dark floor, leaving the flickering chaos behind as he reaches the third screen. The light here is a deep, steady amber, illuminating a complex map of the world. He taps the glass, and the display instantly populates with live data from Tokyo, London, and New York. Forex, he says, his voice flat and precise. This is the heartbeat of the global economy. It never sleeps. It never stops moving. He moves his hand across the map, tracing the flow of currency pairs that shift in real time as different markets open and close. You are trading the strength of nations against each other. You are trading interest rates, political shifts, and the movement of money across borders. He pulls up a chart, and the lines are thin, sharp, and remarkably dense. This is liquid. It is high velocity. It demands a different kind of focus. He leans in, his face inches from the glass, watching the numbers shift by fractions of a cent. There is no room for emotion here. There is no room for hesitation. Forex rewards those who can calculate, adapt, and execute with surgical precision. It is the purest test of discipline. If you want to master this, you must become as consistent as the market itself. You must be precise, or you will be erased. Anton leaves the final screen and walks to a stark white board standing in the center of the room. He picks up a thick black marker. The silence in the room is heavy. He draws a long, gentle slope.
Stocks teach patience, he says, his voice low. He draws a jagged, spiked line that tears across the space.
Crypto teaches emotional control. Finally, he draws a series of tight, overlapping circles that barely move. Forex teaches discipline and precision. He drops the marker. It hits the floor with a sharp, echoing crack. He turns, his shadow stretching long against the wall. You look at these lines and you think you are choosing a career.
You are not. He steps closer to the lens, his face partially obscured by the dim light.
You are choosing a mold. Every market you touch will carve your brain into its own shape.
He pauses. The air feels thin. The real question is not which market can make you rich.
The real question is what happens to your mind when the pressure starts to climb. He stares into the camera.
Unblinking. You are currently being tested. Every choice you make in these markets is a direct reflection of who you are when you think nobody is watching.
Are you ready to see what is hidden in your own head?
The space behind him fractures. 3 giant screens ignite, and Anton steps into the center, effectively split into 3 versions of himself. On the left, he watches a smooth, ascending line. His eyes are steady,
his breathing slow, his hands resting motionless at his sides. He is the image of patience. Then, the center frame erupts.
The line on the screen jumps violently, jagged and erratic. Anton's posture snaps. His eyes widen. His hands grip the air, and he reacts to every spike with a sharp, twitching motion. He is the image of chaos,
fighting to keep pace with the volatility. Finally, he turns to the third screen. He ignores the movement entirely, focusing on a complex grid of numbers. He pulls a stylus and begins to calculate, his movements precise, rhythmic, and cold. He is the image of analytical calculation. The 3 versions of him exist simultaneously, a stark, visual contradiction. He turns his head to look at the viewer from all 3 frames at once. The calm version, the frantic version, and the calculating version. Look at the difference, he says, his voice echoing from the 3 sources in perfect synchronization. The markets do not care about your intentions. They only care about your reaction. Which one of these are you when the stakes rise? Which one are you when the profit turns to loss? The 3 screens vanish. The room returns to its singular, dim, green-hued state. Anton stands alone in the center, his hands clasped behind his back. He does not smile. He does not offer a comforting word.
He simply waits. You think you failed because the market crashed, he says,
his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. You think you lost because the charts were rigged or the timing was off. He takes a slow step forward, entering the light. That is a lie you tell yourself to sleep at night. He points a finger directly at the camera, holding the gesture steady.
Most beginners crash and burn not because of what happens on the screen. They fail because they are strangers to their own nature.
He tilts his head, eyes scanning the lens as if reading the person behind it. Are you patient enough to wait for the trend, or are you desperate for the dopamine hit of a fast trade? Are you analytical enough to calculate the risk, or are you ruled by the panic in your chest? He leans in until his face fills the frame. The market is just a mirror. It does not create your flaws. It only amplifies them. If you do not know who you are before you trade, you are not a participant. You are a target. Anton turns his back to the camera and reaches for a heavy, felt eraser. He presses it hard against the board,
dragging it across the surface with a harsh, scraping sound. Stocks, crypto, forex. He wipes them all into a gray, smudged dust. He tosses the eraser aside and picks up a fresh marker.
He writes 4 words in the center: financial basics. He then reaches for a switch on the wall.
The 3 glowing screens behind him flicker and die, plunging the room into a deep, singular shadow. Only the light above the board remains. Do not start with a market, he says, his voice low and devoid of compromise.
Every market is a trap if you lack a foundation. He taps the board hard, the sound echoing in the empty space. Understand how money flows. Understand how risk functions. Master your own impulses before you ever place a trade. He moves closer to the board, his shadow stretching across the floor.
If you skip these foundations, you are not investing. You are gambling with a loaded deck. Every move you make, every chart you watch, every second you spend waiting for a profit, it is all just a slow,
inevitable slide toward total loss. He drops the marker. It clatters on the hard floor, the sound sharp and final. Anton steps away from the board and leans forward, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. The green light from the overhead fixture casts sharp angles across his face, highlighting the intensity in his gaze.
He looks directly into the lens, holding the viewer in a quiet, steady focus.
Stocks, crypto, and forex are just tools, he says, his tone shifting from warning to absolute certainty. They are hollow shells without the engine to drive them. Your brain is the only asset that truly matters. He pauses, letting the words hang in the stagnant air of the room. If you want to learn how to master your mind and your money, hit subscribe and join me every week for the real lessons. He maintains the eye contact for 3 long seconds, a brief, silent challenge. Then, he stands up straight, his silhouette sharpening against the dim background. He turns away from the camera, his movements deliberate and calm. As he walks toward the shadows at the edge of the room, he reaches up and pulls the light cord. The green glow vanishes instantly. The room drops into total darkness. The screens remain black. The lesson is finished.